People were calling for it in the Discord, and I'm not going to deny them. There haven't been a lot of reasons to hit the music lately here, Zach. And when you get one, you hit the music and you celebrate. A sweep in Colorado, the beginning of a 5-1 stretch that we called for a week ago. I said if we were going to be the catalyst, that's fine. We will be the catalyst. And damn it, the music needed hit.
This is a different version, huh?
Yeah, I feel like new stretch.
Okay.
New hope. New music.
I thought the rule was they had to have a winning record.
Sometimes, we set the rules and we have to throw them out the window.
Okay.
And timestamps will be below, so Mr. Elf, a.k.a. Bit Guy, who hates all the bits, you could just skip ahead in the episode past the celebration. Guardians sweep the Colorado Rockies. And they go 5-1 to begin this stretch, Zach. It's exactly what we called for, and they did it.
Take that, dinger.
Jo Adell, his bat is on fire. Chase DeLauter, triple after triple after, well, just the two triples. But his bat has been real hot, too. Moving the lineup in and out. 33 hits in the series.
I was gonna just go on a rant, ripping Rockies player after Rockies player, and then I remembered half of them I either don't know their first name or...
I don't deserve that. They already got stung, literally, on the field. We'll talk about that coming up. Guardians back. They're alive, baby. They are right back in this race. And everything we called for a week ago, they did it.
How happy was that
started.
Flight from Denver to
right?
Long Beach?
We said, Zach, legitimately, we've said we don't care about that strength of schedule. Earn it. And they did. That this is what you're supposed to do when you enter this stretch of the schedule. Now, I know the Royals are coming up, but we'll probably look ahead to some more schedule madness on the horizon. They've been red hot, too, so calm down over there before that series opens up. But that's what this was supposed to be, this ability to catch your breath, to maybe get yourself healthy, both physically and mentally, too, because they've been beat up and they've had series loss after series loss. Well, you take care of San Francisco. You probably should have swept that series, but hey, you did it. You took that series. You go to Colorado, and Zach, this could be like this. It's a weird environment for anyone that's never pitched there. I think we saw that some early in some of these outings where guys, a little bit of a feeling out process early on to see which pitches are actually going to move the way that you want. So I almost take any pitching performance and throw it out the window. And if you win and if you sweep in that series and you get some offense yourself, it's exactly what I need from you. And they did it. So props to them for getting themselves back within striking distance of 500 and a wild card spot.
Look, TJ, they played 6 games this week. They allowed 10 runs. That's a great formula. Now, that formula hasn't always worked this season because the offense tends to not deliver even when the pitching is good, but the offense delivered. And they also gave the pitchers some breathing room, too. That's the other thing. They won 5 of 6, but it's not like usually that means they would need Cade Smith in the 9th inning for all 5, and it would be a 1-run game, and you'd be chewing off your fingernails, and that's not what happened. You had some...
No, you needed Logan Allen to close it out.
Yeah, you had some wins where you could just relax. You could chill. You could get other guys some work. You could pitch with a lead and not feel like if you give up a run, it's going to be the backbreaker. So it was probably therapeutic for them. I think refreshing for everybody watching. And look, yeah, these are games you should win. But they haven't done that.
Yeah.
But
right.
that's what I mean. Like, they haven't. I want to see them play well and play consistently well against anybody. Like, it would give me a little bit of encouragement if they played a local, 8th grade team and they at least did they played the right way and they did the fundamentals. Like, I needed to see that against anybody, and we'll see if they can continue it now.
Well, haven't we said a lot that sometimes their biggest opponent has been themselves?
100%.
They make silly mistakes, whether it's on the bases, and Angel Martinez contributed a little bit to that. I thought they might have gone to the bullpen earlier had he not got thrown out.
I was a little disappointed in that just because one of my weird favorite quirks about baseball is I love seeing how high a pitcher's pitch count can get in the first inning or two. Like, I want to see something crazy. I want to see someone need 60 pitches to get through an inning or get to 100 before the end of the third, something like that. And we were right there, right? Like,
Yeah, we were blessed.
if Martinez doesn't make that out, I mean, he's probably crossing 50 in the first inning.
Yeah.
And
Foster Griffin's like, hey, what if my second inning was equally as terrifying?
yeah, like, it almost, I mean, the Guardians scored 5 runs in the first 2 innings, and it felt like they left some out there.
Right. And so it's playing the clean baseball that you talked about a couple of weeks ago. And I asked, what is clean? And you said it's just limiting those mental mistakes defensively, catch the ball, don't make the outs on the bases, at least don't get too much in the way. And in this case, if it's a case of aggressiveness as opposed to just total bonehead plays, then there's some line of differentiation there. But everything you'd want out of this series, you did it. How nicely some of these newcomers have fit in and got their footing. Jo Adell has been a godsend offensively, and he continued that. He's up to 17 RBIs with Cleveland so far. The most in a player's first 17 games since who, Zach?
Since our buddy Mark Reynolds, who got off to such a hot start in 2013. And we were all like, oh, my God, you're amazing. How are you doing this? And he cautioned us and said, guys, I'm going to go through such a rough, cold spell. You are going to write that I should be sent to outer space. And what happened in August, he did, and he was DFA'd. So he called his own shot.
I mean, it's deep into the lore of this show. We've told the story so many times, but it applies once again. But he really has fit in so nicely. And we were maybe concerned. Concerned, maybe not the right. We were interested to see how they were going to use him because the numbers would scream at you, use this guy against lefties, but probably don't expose him too much to righties. That has not been the case. And they said when they acquired him, Antonetti even said it the day they got him, we don't see him strictly as a platoon guy. We think there's more in there against righties too. And it's nice when he can be a guy that you play every single day because then that makes the other team less likely to just want to go to a lefty and kill your lineup and make Stephen Vogt make pinch hitting decisions in the 4th and 5th inning when they do that. And he's been playable against everybody. It's not just the fact that the production's been there, but it's also been the joy in which I've gotten to watch some of the balls just launch off his bat. We've heard players already talk about the sound coming off of his stick just sounds different. And that's always been the case with him. He's always had just this untapped potential seemingly with Los Angeles. So we just give the credit here for Cleveland. The hitting staff here has unlocked Jo Adell, and he's now ready to be the player that everyone thought he was always going to be.
Well, yeah, the sound off the bat sounds different when every home run you hit travels 450 feet. The guy's got insane power. I think, we were talking. I talked to him about that. Did you see the Pete Alonso home run that was?
Oh yeah,
that was called foul, and then replay upheld it, even though it looked to the naked eye like it was a fair ball. And I was talking to him about it, and he was saying in high school it happened all the time to him because the foul poles in his high school in Louisville were not that tall, and he had just unparalleled power. No one else was hitting the ball as high and far as he was, and so he would just constantly hit it over the foul pole, and he had a bunch where they just ruled him foul, and he's like, there's no way you can call that foul. It's fair. It just went over the foul pole, and so he could commiserate. But, a couple things here. One, he hit 30 home runs last year against righties, and he hit 7 against lefties. So it's not like he cannot do it. And I think this is another one of those examples where you can rush to judgment and you can pigeonhole a player into a specific role. But this team has needed power so badly that even if him against righties is home run or bust, they need home runs. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world to have him in the lineup. But the other part is getting him out of that scene in Anaheim. Like, you don't know what that's going to do to a player and can rejuvenate them. And I'm not even just saying like the Angels couldn't coach, because we know that the Guardians have had struggles with, hitting instruction and development. So I'm not saying he's going to come here and turn into some godsend, but just the the life that you can feel going to a new environment after being stuck somewhere so long with such misery. Like, that can do a lot of things. You can just automatically level up in confidence just from being in new surroundings. So I want to see as much of this guy as possible, especially if he's contributing like this. I also will say I don't ever look at a player's RBI total. Like, there's so much out of their control, and it's like
well,
pitcher.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, because if it's so high that I can't ignore it, then it's fun. Like, if you're going to chase 200 RBI, I would be like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Okay, well, now I don't need to say anything, because that is what I was going to say is like,
finally, I've stole your thunder.
for a team that has struggled so much to hit with runners in scoring position, to have 17 RBIs in 17 games says a lot, right? Like, he's providing the two things that they have needed so sorely, and that is power and timely hitting. And so maybe this is just a hot stretch and he'll cool off and it'll be really rough. But also, like, maybe that doesn't happen because there's only 5 weeks left and it's going to be a joyride to the end.
258 since he's gotten here. 329 is the on-base percentage. We talked initially when he got here, he was walking a lot. He's walking a lot. He's not providing much other than the walks. Well, that's changed. And the slug's now up to 532, so that's an 861 OPS, 40% above league average just in terms of OPS. And there's OPS plus, 4 home runs, you're driving in runs. We talked about how this team is doing a good job, much better job, an extremely good job now recently at getting on base at the top of the lineup. Stephen Kwan just continues to be on fire, although he had an 0 for day, and then he backs it up by getting on base a bunch again. But Chase DeLauter with what he's doing. So Jose has been absent from much of this stretch in terms of his production, not really driving in runs the way that you want. So Jo Adell has slid into that role. Yeah, at some point that's probably going to change. He's probably not going to continue to hit balls as consistently as he has and be up and come through in all these situations. But you brought him in here to provide that one key home run at the right time, to get you 3 runs with one swing of the bat. That's what this team, we joke about all the time. They'll fight and claw and scratch, and it seems like they drop everything and the kitchen sink they can against their opposing pitcher to get 1 or 2 runs. And it's nice when a guy can just get up there and the pitcher's still not into their rhythm yet, and they turn around, the next thing you know, they're behind by three runs because he just got one on one swing of the bat.
He did that the other night, and I swear my brain watched this. Like, I watched the scoreboard change from 0 to 3, and my brain was like struggling to process it. You can do that? You can score 3 runs at a time? I thought you had to have 5 singles and 2 walks and, running from first to third a couple times to get that. But it makes such a difference, right? Like, why have the White Sox hung around and maintain their hold in the division? Because they can hit the ball at the ballpark. So it's, you're not going to go through prolonged stretches of losing because you're going to have a game where you pitch well enough and you just pop 1 or 2 and you win.
And I've liked the contrast between that style with what Jo Adell brings and then Nathaniel Lowe right behind him. So it's 2 different sorts of offensive profiles. One guy that you have to be fearful. And that's the one thing I love about Jo Adell. How many Guardians players come up in the pitchers, even if it's a good hitter, even Chase DeLauter and Stephen Kwan when they're going this hot, are they that concerned that if they leave one in the fat part of the plate, it's going to leave the yard? Not too much. And it's like, oh, well, if Kwan or DeLauter earn their way on even with an extra base hit, I can attack whoever's behind them. I don't have to worry about this turning into multiple runs, even if one crosses the plate. Well, that's Jo Adell's a guy that makes you fearful, but I like the Nathaniel Lowe contrast behind him because then that is a guy that's going to be more of what the previous guys are. Get on base. He can certainly leave the yard. He's done that with Cleveland some, but it's a different sort of profile right behind him. Obviously, lefty-righty. We talked about how this didn't make sense for a while because the lineup looked better, felt better. They weren't scoring runs. I know they went to Colorado. You should score some runs in that ballpark, and they did. But overall, it just seems like everybody's maybe starting to settle into where they need to be now that we're past the trades and everyone kind of getting their footing. And it feels like some positive momentum being built offensively. I hope it holds up.
mean, think about it. On days where Hedges is in there, his OPS is slightly above league average. Bazana's been about league average. His OPS plus is 100. Steven Kwan's is 100. Ramirez is 102. But you've got Nathaniel Lowe now at first base. Since he's come over, it's been 104, but he's been much better than that overall this season. Hinao now takes over a spot most days, and he's at 108. Adell's at 140, as you said. I mean, there's almost every spot in the lineup is a league average hitter or better. And so it's just deeper. Like, they've lengthened this, and it's not perfect, and they still need more from Ramirez, and you've had some better at-bats from Bazana lately, which is good. They've got to figure out, like, there's a better way to do this than Halpin playing as often as he's playing. But regardless, the lineup is better.
Can I give them some? I think partially in two of the games, I understand wanting a better center fielder in Coors Field.
That's fine. I'm just saying moving forward. I'm saying overall.
I agree with you.
There's a better way to do this, I think. But the lineup's just better, and getting timely hits.
Also went deep in this series. Oh, by the way,
getting timely hits he's got a 60 OPS plus after that. So, getting timely hits will make you feel better about a team in general, right? It's funny. I was looking. The Guardians ranked 29th in the league in home runs. They have 123 of them. Adell has been a breath of fresh air. They're still just, they don't hit for enough power. Their team leader is 13. You know who ranks last? The only team with fewer home runs than the Guardians?
Hit me with it.
It's the Brewers, who have the best record in baseball. So it's amazing what can happen when you.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously get on base more.
Sure.
But they have timely hitting. They hit when they need to, and so that can just completely change your perception of what an offense can do, and maybe this offense will just look completely better over the last 5 weeks, and we'll forget about what they did for the first 4 months.
I mean, power is still important. It's one of the reasons why I think there's concern about the Brewers not being able to go deep into the playoffs is because are they going to be the same team offensively against really good pitching that they've been able to be over the length of the season? And that's a question they'll need to answer. Certainly you need power in the playoffs. It's nice when you can make lots of contact, and I don't think you want to be the team that strikes out every single at-bat either, but it's finding a balance between teams that do make contact, but you've got to be able to have that legitimately in the toolbox when you're facing good pitchers.
It's all up to Misty Bauer's son over there.
So right now, Jo Adell's total season's in 95 WRC+, so he's nearing the league average mark with his 20 home runs, which makes this it's a fascinating season. Let's say it plays out kind of similar to what we've seen so far, and the projections, whether you're looking at your favorite Oopsie, who says he's going to be 6% above league average the rest of the way. The Bat X has him at 11% above league average the rest of the way. Every metric has him as an above average hitter the rest of the way. Every single projection system also says rest of season he'll have 5 more home runs, which would get him to 25. So if he continues that, it's going to be probably a little bit above league average with 25 home runs. We've talked so much since he's gotten here about, is this a guy that fits in long term? I think based on what you've seen, there's not a lot of this sort of profile just readily available for them to grab, and you already have it. Maybe you could talk me into another free agent that brings a similar skill set, but you already control Jo Adell's fate if you want to. I just feel like the more we see it, and what you've talked about, just wanting to see a talented player in a new environment, and you've already seen some of what maybe the best of the production could look like, I'm going to keep riding this train until something tells me I need to get off it. I think this is a guy that I want to see continue this in Cleveland. And based on, I know Cozart didn't fit in maybe based on the depth chart, but he's still a prospect that you imagine is going to play in the major leagues. I don't think they give up that player if they think of Jo Adell just being a guy that slides in for the rest of the season. So I think even in their mind, they said, unless this goes horribly, this is a guy we want around beyond the end of 2026.
Yeah, I mean, they control him next year, and I think, again, there are a lot of questions on what next year looks like, right? I would imagine in arbitration he'd be due something. He was making $5.2 million this year, so bump that up to $8 next year. or thereabouts, maybe. Kind of on the Quan program. Quan a little higher in salary, but you could do a lot worse than Quan and Adell for, 18 to 20 million. Because you're right, that's usually what one player in free agency costs, right? So I just think he's a step or two above. They've tried to patch that role with like the Rayburns and the Luplos and the Geyers, and like Noel and Rodriguez, and certainly have had mixed results over the years. And this is a guy who is a step or two above that, where you're not wondering, can they be a platoon partner and fill this role adequately? And it's also, it's the smaller role, right? You're facing left-handed pitching. It's no, can you play every day? We know you can feast on left-handed pitching. We want to know if you can be that everyday player. And you've had enough success at it in the past with last season that it's worth exploring that, right? So, it used to be Rayburn would get scorching hot. Remember in like, 13? He was an odd year guy, 13 and 15. The years the Giants didn't win the World Series, Rayburn went nuts. And we would wonder, like, should he just play every day? And you realize it's like, look, it's Ryan Rayburn we're talking about. Like, so maybe we did the same thing with Jordan Luplow.
Rayburn starting in the wild card game against a righty because he was just the hottest bat, so you just went with him.
Yeah, so this is a little different. Jo Adell was like the number 2 prospect in baseball. He was the 10th overall pick. He was in the majors really early, like, and not in a good situation. And it's just, I don't know. He's just so interesting because it feels like they have not had a player like this, and they've needed a player like this. And yet it's not I don't want to, like, this isn't a perfect fit, and it's not a perfect player because there are still a lot of question marks here. But they're question marks that are actually like intriguing to try to answer.
Right.
Like it's
right.
If they play him every day and it's a flop, like, that's still beneficial. And I think it was still worthwhile to learn that.
But it hasn't been, at least not to this
No.
point. And most of what they've brought in at the deadline has helped them in positive ways. Certainly with what we've covered with Jo Adell, Nathaniel Lowe has not been as good as he was in Cincinnati, but he's still come through with some pretty important base hits so far with Cleveland. So, like, I feel like the timing of his production has been pretty good, but he's at a 259, 288. I think that would change over time, and 444 slugs. So that's 733, as you said, 4% above league average in terms of OPS. You've got what you've received so far from Foster Griffin, which that first outing was dog doo-doo, but since then, just kind of what you wanted to get out of him. There's this. I think some of the narrative around him was based on this guy was an all-star, so of course they traded for him to go start game 2 of a playoff series, but that's not what they saw in him. I mean, sure, if he elevates himself to that level, just let me finish the point first.
Just
sure, if he pitches to that level, if he pitches to that level, fantastic. But they wanted someone that was an upgrade, so they felt like every day they come to the ballpark, 5 days in a row, you feel like you're going to get 5 good, if not more, quality start innings and raise the floor from what they were getting from Slade Ciccone and also protect them a little bit better in case one of the guys went down with injury. So it wasn't like they were trading for Foster Griffin, all-star, top of the rotation guy. And when he wasn't that initially, everyone said, well, this is the guy they traded for. Reset your expectations. Is this guy really good at being a 3 or a 4 in a rotation? Yeah, and that's what he's provided so far. And even factoring in what he did against the Mets, he's 3-1, so you're 3-1 and a 4.05 ERA, and it's like you're getting exactly what you wanted for the most part out of that rotation spot. And I have to imagine as he gets more comfortable with his catchers and they get more comfortable with him, there's even room for that to improve moving forward.
Yeah, he's only 1 win behind Slade Ciccone and only 2 behind Tanner Bybee. How about that? No, you're right. I mean, the lineup got deeper with the additions of Adell and Lowe and Hanau. I think the rotation feels deeper. Like I don't know who is the 3 and who is the 4 and who is the 5, but whoever the 5 is pretty good for a 5, right? Like if it's Bybee, Cantillo, Griffin, whatever, they have depth. Like that's a deep rotation. You feel you're right. You feel like you should get a good start every single game. That's how you get on a run. I've brought this up a million times. 2017, when they won 22 games in a row. Look, that team was unbelievable. The roster was loaded, but the craziest part about that was go back and look at the stat line for the starting pitcher every single night of that run. Like, it was every single night, it was 7 innings, 1 run. Or if Kluber was on the mound, 8 innings, no runs. I think they hit more home runs than they allowed runs in that stretch. Like, the way you get on a roll, and we saw this last September, all 6 starting pitchers were phenomenal, and they had like 3 or 4 of them who were like legitimate candidates to win Pitcher of the Month. And how do you get on a roll? You get on a roll because you just give up a run or 2 every night. What have they done the last week? They give up 10 runs in 6 games. That's how you get on a roll, because then you're taking a lot of pressure off of an offense that for most of the season has not been able to handle the pressure. And there's a difference between allowing, 3 runs and just completely shutting the door and allowing 0 or 1, right? You need a hit. I mean, they couldn't get it in the one game that they lost this week, but it makes life so much easier. That's how you string wins together. And I just feel like with Griffin, you have a more complete rotation where there is not a night where you're like, this is going to be tough. Like, you might need to score 8 runs tonight because you got this guy on the mound. And it's not a slight to Slade Ciccone either, who had a stretch of like a dozen starts where he was really good this year. But I just think where he's at in his career, Griffin is pretty reliable at this point. I don't think we haven't even seen like really good Foster Griffin yet either, which he was for most of the season with the Nationals. I would assume that that's coming at some point.
And I know a lot of this is framed based on a good week against some bad teams. I understand that. I know there's probably somebody out there listening going, you guys a week ago were saying this team sucked and this is just the benefit of playing bad teams. But you know what? First of all, take what you can get when things have been very rotten for a while, especially coming out of the All-Star break. Any stretch of positive, latch onto it and have some fun with it. And the second thing is, Zach, other teams get to play these bad teams too. It's just they were ordered differently. And early in the year, they went through a really bad gauntlet. They faced some really good pitching. And that was it. Even that was a completely different team than what they are now. And it's like hard to compartmentalize and say, well, the wins that they got earlier were the same, indicative of what they are now. The same thing for the losses as of recently, because some of this happened right after they shifted up their team quite a bit and brought in some new players. And I'm not even saying that what we've seen the last week is exactly them either, but it's more so like picking apart the signs and trying to see what do you believe in, what we've seen recently, what do you think projects forward, like what we're seeing with Chase DeLauter and him being on fire offensively in the month of August with a 348, 442, 530 slash line this month. And this was someone that, he got into a funk earlier in the year, then he got hurt. And it's like, did everybody start to figure him out? Is he hitting the rookie wall? And it's when you see a young player not only have early success, but then have struggles, but then come back even stronger and make his own adjustments. I believe 1,000% in this kid being a really good hitter. And I think there's some room to improve. Maybe not even in terms of overall run production, but how he's getting there and maybe introducing some more power as he grows into his major league career. But man, and then coming back, he has his own injury, and he's come back, doesn't miss a beat from the hamstring that he missed a few days for. It's just, I'm so encouraged by some of the signs we are seeing from, in addition to Adell, but seeing DeLauter and now the stretch he's been on. There are things here that I latch on to and say, those are really exciting parts of this team that could form what they do down the stretch.
DeLauter's going to win a batting title in the next couple of years, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
it's...
I'm going to mark that down right here.
It reminds me of like an NBA team where in the NBA more than half the league makes the playoffs and the regular season's so long and your record doesn't matter. We've seen good teams be the 4 seed and you're just trying to get healthy and form good habits before the playoffs, right? And that'll tell you more about how you'll fare. And I think we were all a little dubious of the Cavs last season because they never really felt like they were in sync and like they had figured out the formula. And then they got to the playoffs and their first 2 series were just painful gauntlets and they needed 7 games. And anyway, it's kind of like that here because like we saw this team take a series in LA against the Dodgers, but that was in March or April. And that was really impressive. And it was great how they pulled through that first road trip, which was so tough. And we spent so much time talking about the schedule early on because it was difficult in April. And we're like, oh, well, just wait till it opens up this summer. And it's like, yeah, but your team changes and who you have available changes and the habits you're forming change. You know, you might catch a team, but it's when Stephen Kwan is slumping and Chase DeLauter is needing to make adjustments, right? Well, how about if you're facing this team now and Kwan can't get out and DeLauter can't get out? And that's a really difficult top 2 to face, right? So it's just, you have these constant ebbs and flows with individuals and with your team. So a lot of the time it is when you're catching a team. And so I know we've spent a lot of time talking about the schedule, and we looked at this 12-game stretch, and I think we said they need to go 9-3, and they've done their part so far. 5-1 is all you could ask for. Now go win some more series. But it's funny. I look at the landscape of the American League, and MLB.com has all these different categories on their standings page, and one of them is your record against teams better than 500. And I like to just peek at that just to get a sense of does this tell me anything? And the thing is, if you look at the American League, every single freaking team is like hovering around 500. So those teams will go like over 500 one day and then below 500 next. And so that category, everybody's records change dramatically day to day, right?
I feel like it should be at the time that you play them where they 500 or better.
And so if you look, like the Astros are 19-14 against teams above 500 at this moment. The Red Sox are 29-20, and the Rays are 24-22. The Tigers are 25-24. Everybody else is under 500, which makes sense because pretty much everybody in the American League is under 500. Point is, in a year like this, where the Central's bad, the West is bad, there's going to be a team that gets the number 2 seed in a bye, and they might have like 85, 86 wins. There might be a team in the playoffs under 500. There might be 2 teams in the playoffs under 500 because the AL West leader currently is 65-66. The Guardians, if they win the division, if they get the 6th seed as the 3rd wild card, like they're not going to have to face the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Rays to the ALCS. My point is, no apologies. This is the way that this has shaken out this year. It's abnormal. So if you beat up on cupcakes, if you play your best baseball against the dregs of the league, if you sneak in as the 6th seed and you upset the crappy AL West winner and then you upset the AL Central winner, if you win the Central and you get that bye and you win your division series and you cruise into that, no apologies. This is just the way it's worked. So whatever happened in the past, when you couldn't get hits with runners in scoring position for 4 months, when you couldn't pitch on the rare days where you did hit, where your bullpen blew the lead on the one day where you were cruising into the 8th inning, when it was maddening and frustrating and all of that, and we came on here and shouted and yelled week after week after week because this team was underperforming and not taking advantage of the situation I'm laying out here, none of that has to matter if you play well. And it doesn't matter who you play well against because all you got to do is get in and it's set up really nicely for you. So no apologies.
It's a really good speech. It's got me fired up. I mean, hell, they got their World Series win percentage up to 2.6% better than the Chicago White Sox. We're at 2.2, the chance to make the playoffs. It's almost a coin flip now. 47.1%. Fueled by your strength of schedule the rest of the way at 477. Slightly better than the Twins, who get to benefit from a 478 strength of schedule rest of way.
I mean, it's really weird because if you're if you're a scoreboard watcher, you're like, it's like way too much. It's got to be overwhelming right now.
Yeah. So this weekend, I'm just pulling up the scores, and I'm realizing I go game by game and realized at least the teams in the American League. I cared about almost every single game. It had some implication on Cleveland.
I mean, okay, what did the White Sox do? What did the Twins do? What did the Tigers do? What did the Astros do? What did the Rangers do? What did the Mariners do? I mean, it's so the White Sox are going to play the Rangers the next few days, and someone was asking me, like, well, who should fans root for? And I'm thinking, like, well, they were making the point, stick with the division first, so root for the Rangers. And then I noticed that the Astros lost and the Rangers won on Sunday, so I'm like, yeah, because also like let the Rangers win the West, and then so you could root for the Rangers and then root against the Astros. I think it was helpful, I guess, that the Royals swept the Tigers. So just try to knock one of these teams out of here, I guess. The Mariners lost 19-2, which it seems like they do that now once a week. So maybe the Mariners and Tigers are kind of falling out of it, but all of a sudden the Royals are scorching hot, so they might be tough when you face them this weekend.
It's only 11 games back of the White Sox.
I mean, you're going to face the Blue Jays.
Cleveland laughed at that last year.
You're going to face the Blue Jays coming up. You're going to face the White Sox coming up. You're going to face the Tigers 4 times in 3 days. You're going to face the Twins. You're going to face the Orioles. All these teams are the teams you're contending with. So there's going to continue to be a ton of movement and drama and intrigue. It could be fun.
Well, you're not
nice little diversion from what's happening in Berea.
Oh my God! You're not going to be able to just accidentally sneak your way in, given that you have to play the teams that you're matching up against. So some of this stuff is just going to matter. You can't lose against these teams that you're directly compared to in the standings and then only beat up on the cupcakes and expect to make your way in. I just think there's too many teams that are hanging around to do that. But it is interesting every day just following this, and Cleveland gets the benefit so much in these projections from a strength of schedule that is beneficial compared to the Whites. It's not like the White Sox are going to play an extremely tough strength of schedule. They're at 489 the rest of the way, but it does help close the gap a little bit. They still see the White Sox as the more likely division winner at 60.2%. And the Guardians right now at essentially 27% chance to win the division, followed by the Twins at 10.6 and the Tigers falling back to 2.3. And the Royals, it still says 0.0, but depends on how many places.
The Twins number is too high.
We move it over. Still not believing in that 10.6% chance to win the division, huh?
No, they're 5.5 back, 6 in the loss column, and I just have never really bought them. But I don't know.
I know you've been a hater since day one. And the biggest thing is, Zach, you come out of this stretch, sure, you beat bad teams. San Francisco and Colorado suck, but you had the middle game where you feel like you should have won that one. But so much of this stretch, it wasn't a win. The wins where you feel like kind of icky at the end of it. You didn't play clean. There's some errors. You gave away runs. You made outs on the bases, and you won because the team that you're playing absolutely blows. But it still kind of feels like a loss. They went out there and strangled these teams and took care of them easily. And I think that adds to the enjoyment. That adds to the belief that this was a legitimate couple of series in a row here where you're seeing some of the best of them. And maybe more than what we think of this team, a team that's young. And in the case of bringing Jo Adell in here, okay, he's sort of getting into a veteran mold in his career, but he hasn't tasted a ton of team success in his life, at least professionally with the Angels. And so building up a belief within yourself and not letting this snowball out of control and building some positive momentum. And momentum may be only as good as the next day's starting pitcher, but they've at least put together a squad that has some pretty good starting pitching to maybe help build that momentum.
Yeah, and then carry that into Anaheim, where Adell gets to go against his former team. You can look over and be like, hey, I'm happy over here. We're winning. Yeah, I mean, look, let's also I'm not going to try to hype up the Rockies as anything other than like they're dreadful. The one thing they can do is score runs. They have scored more runs than every American League team except they're 1 run behind the White Sox. And you completely shut them down. So again, credit to Cleveland's pitching, which has been really, really good lately.
Yeah.
even playing the worst teams in the league, they're still faring better than a normal team would.
And that ballpark, that might be the biggest opponent you face. And so much it's just not knowing how your pitches are going to move.
Yeah.
Getting used to balls that are in the humidor and maybe it impacts the seams a little bit differently, and you just never know how things are going to
flying around.
Okay, so remember, it was probably a couple years ago, you asked me what would be the worst way to balk you're in a World Series game. You're in a World Series game. You got runners on base. Could you imagine losing a critical game in a awful way? And I think we arrived at one of the most embarrassing ways would be if you sneezed on the mound.
So Jordan Schuster and I had this debate for like weeks one season, and we were talking about when would be the worst time to sneeze on a baseball field, and why do we never see that? And we were thinking like right as you're camping under a fly ball, and then you sneeze and it just drills you in the head. Or like a critical moment if you're the pitcher or you're the hitter. And then I know we had a conversation with Will Brennan about it, and we were like really excited to talk to some players about this. And I think Brennan was like, these guys are weird. But it's one of those things you never see, and I think this was like that as well, because it's one thing to get stung. It's almost better if you're the pitcher, and I thought that he handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be like that outfielder who's like running in circles in the outfield as the pitcher's in his windup trying to get away from the bee.
Yeah. Save yourself.
And no one else is close enough to see that there's a bee or a
They
swarm.
think you've just lost your mind. It's finally happened. He's gone insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt
on the pitching arm. Good thing he wasn't allergic and didn't need.
That's what I thought instantly. Yeah, you never know. And sometimes I did landscaping many years ago, and I went over a ground yellow jacket nest, which we have one in the backyard every year. I got to fight with these guys. It's awful, but at least I know the signs now, and hopefully only get stung once or twice. But it was doing some landscaping, and I got stung 15 to 20 times, and the guy I was working with is like, "Come on, we're gonna pack up. We're done for the day. Like, are you allergic?" And I'm like, I don't know. We're gonna find out. I got back to our headquarters, and our boss was like, "Well, do you feel all right? Well, then get back out there. What are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't know. But if you've never been stung before, you might not know that you're gonna have an allergic reaction, or even as you get older, you develop an allergic reaction you didn't even know you had. So that's what I'm thinking. Is this guy's throwing warm-up pitches? Yeah. Maybe we should be a little bit more cautious just to make sure.
And of all places, it stings him on the right forearm. And he's
right.
Like, come on, can't you, like, how about my thigh or somewhere that, like,
yeah,
it's not going to completely affect what I'm doing here.
All of a sudden your arm is numb and you can't feel anything.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen in the World Series because I don't think the Yellow Jackets or Bees would last till late October and often cold conditions, but that would be a pretty awful way. So I was thinking about it, if that were to happen.
No, that's when you get the midges.
Yeah, well, the midges aren't going to kill you more than likely.
They'll have more effect than that bee did.
That's it. Okay.
Just ask Jabba.
So if that were to happen, and a guy, he's on the mound, and you clearly see him get stung, and let's say a run scores, would you feel any like, when you're playing in the backyard and a ball got stuck in the tree, you go, okay, everyone goes back to where they're at. We're going to play this over again, right? Just in the nature of sportsmanship. Would you feel bad? Would you say, let's just reset? Dude got stung. We can't score a run this way. Or would you just take the run? Would you take the win?
In a World Series game?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen in a World Series game.
Or in, like, a wiffle ball game in the neighborhood.
Okay, let's just even say that game ends on that. Ends on a balk because he got stung. Would you go like, oh, come on, let's just reset the runners?
I've seen a game end on a single into a cluster of a flock of seagulls in center field. I've seen a playoff game completely altered because of midges, and one pitcher handled it better than the other. I mean, I think that's part of it. You take it. No apologies.
Speaking of pitchers getting stung, that's what happened to AAA pitchers facing Ralphy Velazquez recently. So we laughed at his because remember I was reading the slash line at Patreon last week, and I got to the 9.9 something, 980 whatever, and my brain for a minute went to that's his OPS, because why would that be anything other than his OPS? No, that was his slugging percentage, and now that's stupid because his slugging percentage in the month of August is 1.015. Again, not his OPS. That is his slugging percentage to go along with a 447 on base percentage, a 379 average, and he's now up to 14 home runs in the month of August. Are we getting to a point where you can't ignore it? Do you want to see him up here?
We're well past that. I think what did we say last week? Like we're just okay with whatever the team decides. I don't know about that now. I don't know. I think, and I've seen people nitpick and say like, oh, well, he's struggled against changeups and this and that. And it's like, first of all, no player comes to the big leagues just with perfection.
Product.
Yeah. I mean, and so you are never going to call up a player hotter and more confident than this. I mean, it's not even just, if you stretch it back to the very end of July, he has 16 home runs in his last 21 games. He has 16 home runs in his last 79 at-bats. I mean, this is Sosa, June of 98. This is Bonzian. This is nuts. I know it's against AAA pitching. I know there's a gulf between AAA and the major leagues. Again, there are adjustments, but I want to see it. When you are hitting home runs this frequently, that baseball must look like a beach ball. And I don't know that it matters if, someone who's going to be a car mechanic in a couple months is throwing it, or Walbert Urania this week is throwing it. You're going to be confident strolling into the box. So, yeah, I mean, there are complications on like how he'd fit and the ramifications next season if there's a lockout and he's on the 40-man roster, and so he can't play minor league ball until it ends. There's a lot to think through. All I'll say is like, I'm intrigued. I am paying attention to his every at bat to see what he can do, and more than anything, because he turned 21 not even 3 months ago, it's reinforced. Like, this is a dude. This is a guy who, and I think those who have paid attention to him really since 2024 have felt this way. But like, you see the swing in person, and I've felt like there's like a lot of Victor Martinez in there, but maybe like more power and maybe not quite as much average. I don't know.
Ridiculous.
The swing reminds me
just
of him.
imagine Victor Martinez with more power.
Well, but Victor could hit like 320. I don't know if Ralphie's going to do that. Point is, he's always felt like a polished bat that's going to succeed, but you're actually seeing it. Like, when's the last time we talked about a prospect doing this? Like,
right. And as you said, you can say, well, what if all the production's coming against fastballs? And okay, that's fair, but to refine that ability, you need to see quality breaking stuff and off speed, and you're probably not going to see a ton of it on display every single night at AAA. So he crushes. If the worst thing you could say about him is that he's only crushing fastballs, well, you're still going to see a decent amount of those in the major leagues. And there's also that, yes, scouting reports are more prevalent now than they've ever been. And so it's not like hitters go up there and the pitchers are blind to what their abilities are. Of course, if they think that's an actual place they can attack, they're going to do it. But you still see more fastballs as a young player, and you get like that first month to ambush everybody before people start to make adjustments to you. Maybe that could happen with him.
Well, I want to know if you can earn fastballs. I want to see you, because in the minor leagues, like the pitcher's going to throw what the pitcher wants to throw, and they're not going to.
They got their own development to worry about.
Exactly. So you get to the major leagues, and it's a little bit of what we've talked about with Stephen Kwan. Obviously, very different profiles here, but just he has needed to prove that he can attack those pitches on the outside so we can get the fastballs inside that he can pull to right field, right? Same thing here, where Okay, we know you can slug. What'd you say? 1,100.
Yeah.
For a month if you're pummeling a lot of fastballs. But if you get to the big leagues, they're going to hit you with a bunch of off speed, and if you can lay off of those, and I think he's been a guy who historically has a decent enough walk rate, and we'll see how plate discipline translates to the majors. But if you can exhibit some of that discipline, you'll get fastballs to hit, and we know you can hit them. So I'm not pounding the table saying get this guy up here right now, but
yeah,
be fun.
Yeah, I don't think this is. We've not entered the territory where if you don't do it, it's a big failure organizationally. I don't.
What's
think
there
that.
to learn? What is there for him to?
Well, right, but as we covered
develop?
before, there could be elements of this we don't even think about with a team protecting a prospect before the CBA negotiations, and there's potential downside to adding him to the 40, and if that happens and he can't play minor league ball, if there's a lockout and you can't communicate with that player, maybe there's benefit from getting him up here and getting his clock started because then he's grandfathered in under the old systems. That's what we talked about with Angel Henao. There's too much uncertainty here to maybe let that be the only reason.
Oh
why
no,
it
he
dictates
can't
what
play
happens.
minor league ball in April and May next year. But why does he care? Because he'll have a World Series MVP trophy, and
That's true. But I think two things here set off some alarms for me in terms of maybe preparing a landing spot for him. One, as we mentioned maybe a week and a half ago, to open up that spot, they're going to have to get comfortable with Jo Adell in left field because there wasn't going to be room for all of the hit like DeLauter to play right field, and you're going to mix Angel Martinez in, and who was going to play left field if Kwan was moving to center field to make an opportunity for a bat. Well, they've now moved Adell to left field, so we've gotten that a little bit out of the way. The second thing is, okay, so one of the infielders has been typically occupying the DH spot, whether it bounces between Jose, Travis Bazana, wherever you want Henao to play. So against righties, there's been an extra infielder, and that's been a landing spot for that DH. And then over the weekend, we see Brian Rocchio sit for a couple of days, and they get Henao in there. And it's not we don't think he's not been valuable. We don't think there's benefit from playing him defensively. But right now, we want to get as many hot sticks into the lineup and also keep an eye toward in Coors Field playing a better center fielder 2 out of the 3 days if we can. But in moving Rocchio to the bench, it does create an opportunity perhaps for another DH spot to open up if you want to do that on occasion. So we talked about initially, like there are ways to do it. You have to get creative. Well, I think they're starting to get creative enough that if they want to pull this trigger, they can do it with Ralphie, and they can do it easily. If they want to wait to September so they can open up that extra roster spot for him to be that guy, maybe that makes sense. But it feels like they're pulling some early levers to maybe prepare in case they want to go that way, to at least create the opportunity. Am I off base there, or what do you think?
No, that all makes sense. We'll see.
You know, people
It'll be
complain
fun.
about. You know, people complain about all the time that we have abandoned one of our best bits that we do.
Oh,
We just
now
don't
they
do
want
it
the
enough.
bits.
Now they want the bits. And this bit in particular is one of our oldest running bits.
And now it's time for the random Cleveland used to play here guy of the day.
I saw a TikTok that said one day you wake up randomly and it smells like fall of 2013. I don't know why that was the case, but 2013, and that made me think of the 2013 team. And so I had to pull it up. I had to find somebody from that squad that we can see if we can guess who they are.
Matt Langwell.
No. This man made his debut with Cleveland in 2012 and then was part of the 2013 team as well. Only pitched in 6 games with the 2013 team. However, he did pitch in 16 games with the 2012 squad. Over his Cleveland career, 22 appearances and a 5.20 ERA. Was very decent-ish in 2012 with a 4.26, but got kicked around in 2013 with a 7.27 ERA in 8 2/3 innings. That's your first clue. Over 2 seasons, 22 appearances, pitcher.
Jeremy Accardo.
No. This man was drafted by the Nationals in the 43rd round of the 2005 draft, then drafted by the San Francisco Giants in the 8th round of the 2008 draft. Was then traded by the Giants. I won't tell you who for because it might give it away initially, but traded by the Giants to the Indians in 2009.
Who did he make his major league debut with? Cleveland?
He only pitched in 2 years in the major leagues, and he only appeared with Cleveland.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy. My memory's getting worse and worse by the day.
It's harder, yeah. Why do I remember 1999 players better than I remember 2013?
Mm-hmm.
Teams I actually covered and saw up close.
Boy.
It's a weird transaction list considering he only pitched with Cleveland over 2 years, but I'll give it to you. He was drafted by the Nationals, drafted by the Giants, traded by the Giants to the Indians in 2009, purchased by the Orioles in 2014 from the Indians, and then selected off waivers by the Rangers, then selected off waivers by the Blue Jays, then free agent, then signed as a free agent with the Cubs in 2015 before granted his free agency at the end of the 2016 season, but again, only pitched with Cleveland.
Lefty or righty?
He was a left-handed pitcher.
Chris Seddon.
Nope.
I don't know.
He was 24 when he made his debut with Cleveland. So he was a young guy, so he was a prospect-ish. And he was traded by the Indians, or traded to the Indians by the Giants for a legitimate major league player in 2009. It was part of the sell-off in 2009.
2009. So they trade Cliff Lee. They trade Victor Martinez. They traded someone to the Giants? Who am I forgetting?
Garco? It was a fan favorite, yes, Ryan Garco.
They traded Ryan Garco for... I have no idea. What's their middle name?
His last game was on my birthday, May 31st, 2013. His middle name is Michael.
Okay. Left-handed reliever. I mean,
yeah.
so 12, like, that year was gross. Like, there's probably a lot of people I forget about from that year. 13, I just remember they cycled through. That was when they had Rich Hill. They have Zepchinski.
Indeed.
They have, like, Ross Detweiler.
I love that we're all so crazy that there are multiple people screaming at their screens, at their car radios, who this is to you.
Really?
I guarantee it. And you will know this name.
Left-handed reliever. I'm wholly embarrassed right now.
Made his debut on May 30th, 2012 against the Royals. Walked a pair, struck out one, pitched an inning. Do you give up?
Yeah.
There's not many other clues. Like, even his Wikipedia page is not that littered with information.
Go ahead.
It was left-handed pitcher Scott Barnes.
Scott Barnes. Yeah, I should have known that. Number 51?
Yep, number 51.
I can remember that, but not. Come on.
Career.
I remember thinking that we thought he was going to be.
.1.
We thought he was going to be a solid player.
Yeah, I think he was looked at as a potential, if nothing else, a guy that we could live in the bullpen for a while.
Scott Barnes. Okay.
Scott Barnes.
Cool. I hope everyone who has been missing that segment got the fulfillment they were seeking.
I just can't believe he had that large of a transaction page. Bounced around, selected off waivers a bunch, traded for a legitimate major leaguer.
Teams can't quit lefty pitching. Come on.
Yeah. Hopefully that was as fun for us as it was for you.
All right, what do they need? 4-2?
Now we got to stay committed to the bit. It's 5-1.